on my walk. It is snowing, not heavily, but there is solid precipitate falling from the sky. I don't know if you can hear me because, number one, I don't know if it's recording from my phone, and if it's recording from my earbud, it's in that ear. So, I am officially unemployed. Woo! And it's kind of crazy because I stayed up later last night, partially because it's the weekend, it's Saturday, and I can. Also, partially because I'm unemployed now, and I can. Excuse me. And I woke up a little too early with a headache, and I'm like, ugh. But I drink literally like a sip of water because that's all I had left. And I got this iced drink because I'm a crazy person who loves to be cold. Oh, I hear somebody behind me. Um, but anyway, so I had a slow start to the day. I watched some anime. Ooh, that was close. And I'm like, can't tell if that's somebody else behind me. And I'm like, oh, I'm unemployed and I'm watching anime. I've been here before in life, but it's obviously a lot different now. The situation and circumstances are completely different. So I was officially released from my job yesterday. I signed my severance paperwork and everything. So, I'll be able to take a break and enjoy it. I still wish I had somewhere that I was going. Oh, my hand is starting to get cold. All right, I need to switch hands 1 second. Ooh. Or I can just do this. I'm just gonna do it. Thanks, Holly. Come to munch. So, hold up. I don't have any gloves. That's the one thing. The one thing I don't have that I kind of need. Thanks. I made this scarf 4 years ago, I think. I made it at some point, and I couldn't decide if I would make it like an infinity scarf or if I would make it not. So I didn't connect it, but I left it where I can tie it up into an infinity if I want. Best of both worlds. Hey, Ariel. I know you're very warm right now. Or not very warm. I know that you're significantly less cold than I am. And I love that for you, if you love that. My brother was like, oh, we should go to Arizona. I'm like, no, I don't want to go to Arizona because I like the cold. I think that's kind of another reason why I don't want to go somewhere warmer right now, because I actually enjoy winter. Excuse me. But anyway, hey Eve, how you doing? I'm live on my phone, so once the chats disappear, they're gone. How's everyone doing today? It's gorgeous, but you consider it cold? That's fair. That's fair. Whew. So yeah, I ended up talking to a buddy of mine yesterday. We got lunch. Yesterday was wild. This is the second time. When I was graduating from Purdue, my journey with Purdue was so long and so crazy and so hectic. And even in the end, they were not trying to let me go. It was like, oh, here's all this stuff that you need to do in order to graduate that we could have told you about all year, but we're going to wait until literally 2 days after the deadline to let you know that if you wanted to graduate, you needed to have done this by October 31st. And I'm like, y'all know I've been planning on graduating all year. Why did y'all wait until November to tell me the deadline was in October? that worked out. I was not, nope, I was not doing it. But anyway, I go to work Friday expecting to just show up, sign my papers, leave. I made lunch plans. I go in. Oh, here's Swift. I was like, I know it's somewhere around here. I was way off. Oh, not too far off. Um, they're like, yeah, you're here all day today. I'm like, what? It snowed all day yesterday and today? I know Reem sent a picture and a video of the snow. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I was told, because my mom doesn't like the cold. And I was like, hey, Mom, are you going to Montreal with me in February? And then I showed her the picture of the snow. She was like, no. But my best friend and his fiance, like, they want to see her because they haven't seen her in a few years. A light blast. Oh, I found a trash can. Oh, my drink is empty. 1 second. Woo! Can y'all hear me all right? I mean, I'm assuming you can. This is coming up because it's cold. I don't even think it's 20 Fahrenheit. But I was like, I want to walk. Ooh, pumpkins. Ooh. Okay. Oh my gosh. Ugh, excuse me. Whew. I mean, I was gonna say, I'm not gonna miss work if I get sick, but also, like, I don't want to be sick. So, 1 second. Good, getting a lot of interesting messages about the solstice. Like a wave of high frequency light coming from the central sun when our sun lines up with it. It is like it's honestly like a heavy coat, full scarf, gloves, more than I have on kind of day. Oh, snap. Yeah, I'm the type of person that goes to Starbucks and gets the cold drink in the middle of the winter. Because I'm crazy like that, I guess. I mean, the thing that I like most about the cold is wearing layers and bundling up and getting cozy and like big coats, hoodies. Sorry. I'm gonna try to like pick up the pace a little bit so my body can like actually warm up. I am not doing multiple laps. Like I said, I might not even do a full lap. I'm not gonna do a full lap because my hands are already cold and I'm not trying to get frostbite. So anyway, Montreal for me is happening late February. I wanted to do something special for my 30th birthday, and Canada has been on my list of places to visit for over a decade now. So I'm sure that's not going to be all that I do for my birthday. I wait with eager and very excited anticipation. But anyway, as I close this year and close this cycle, again, I guess today I just noticed how similarly it looks to a rut that I've found myself in life quite often. Yeah, I'm going to Montreal to see my best friends in February. He was like, hey, I'm going to visit my fiance. You want to come? There's like this thing in Montreal that weekend. I don't know. And I was like, oh, I had plans to go to New York. So I don't know, but because of life, tight white pants birthday. Wait, what? Because of life, New York isn't going to happen. So Montreal will. Well, Montreal was going to happen regardless. It was just like that weekend or before. So, yeah. And there are plenty of trips to be had. And that's something I was reminded of yesterday. So anyway, yeah. I go to work. I'm expecting like, oh, show up, sign your papers, get out. But I walk in. It's not even my boss. It's this other guy. He's like, yo, you're here all day today. And I'm like, you're here all day today? Because his last day is next week. And he's like, I accidentally locked my phone. I'm sorry. He was like, no, you're here all day today until 4. I was like, what? Turns out, I don't know what happened. But they're like, oh yeah, we're here until 4. But again, like I already had plans, right? Like I did literally the bare minimum to walk outside the door. Because I'm like, oh, I'm just signing some papers and I'm coming right back home. Would have worn different clothes and everything. But I go on my lunch and like, I'm like, oh, I'm running late. So I text the person that I was going to meet that I was running late. And he was like, oh, okay, me too. I ended up being on time. I was like later than I wanted to be, but I still made it on time. I'm sitting there looking all stood up for literally like half an hour. And the ranges are wide in late Feb. Okay. My hands are so cold. Can y'all see any of the snows? Can you see it on my hat? It's not like snowing, but there are some flurries. I'm sitting there for half an hour. And I finally send a text. I'm like, hey, like, are we still doing this? And the person was like, oh, are you already there? And I was like, yeah. Something told me to text that like, hey, I'm here. I'm not that late. So anyway, I ended up being at lunch for 2 hours instead of 1 hour. Which is fine because by the time I made it back to work, like they were already releasing us. So all I had to do was sign my papers. But I don't know. And then I pulled when I got home, I pulled some of the Fruma cards to see like the energy of the past year, the energy that it's ending in, and then the next one sort of coming. Oh. Fahrenheit, I think if Fahrenheit and Celsius meet, that's kind of low, right? Because they don't meet at high temperatures. I don't think they meet above freezing. I'm doing a short lap, but I ended up, oh my gosh, my left fingers, the fingers that were holding that drink are so cold. Yeah, it's like low. It might be like, I feel like it's in the negative teens or like close-ish. I don't know. I don't remember. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I pulled cards and I was like, I want a card for like the last year, the energy that I'm ending it in and going into the next one. So that's 3 cards. I'm shuffling. 3 cards fall and I'm like in the middle spot. So I was like, okay. It felt like they were clarifying the energy that it's ending in. And what did I pull? I don't remember. I could try to find the picture, but it would freeze the video. Where am I? Oh, okay. Ah. um, and it was basically, I think, heartache. And the three cards that came out, it was heartache, new, like heartache, a new bud. Oh, the past year was thorn. It was a giant thorny portal, which was very accurate. The current energy was return. What card is that? It literally just came out. I just saw it. Um, it came out. It was the Earth Grap. Earth Grap is what it's ending in, and then it's going into the my summer eclipse rune. It's health now. It was cunning. The learn to know. That card came out for what's next. I'm like, I'm lost. I'm like, wait, this is where I started. This is not where I parked. I was about to make a whole other lap. So yeah, so this past year being a giant thorny portal, yes. It's felt like the return now that I'm ending it in. I guess that's interesting because, like I said, like I'm unemployed. I mean, I feel like that's the only constant. It's almost like if I were to look at me today and this morning from the outside, it wouldn't look any different than literally when I started. So it's almost like this giant thorny portal was like a loop. So it's like if you have a thread or a yarn and you like put it in a circle, it's almost like cat's cradle. Not cat's cradle, but it's the other one where it's like you create this intricate knot, but when you pull it, it's like the knot closes, but then the threads like slip past each other and it undoes the line. So you're left with a single straight edge. So it's like at the end, it looks like I'm exactly where I was before I entered the portal, but everything has changed internally. And because everything has changed internally, there are, in my case, it's easier to see, but there are these very present, non-tangible differences. The state. What? Your natal Jupiter return is soon. So you're optimistic. Hey, you're a Jupiter in Aries? Oh my gosh, I'm a Jupiter in Libra. Our Jupiter is opposed. And my Jupiter is retrograde, so, you know, it's fine. My Jupiter, oh, now the snow is really coming down. Not like huge flakes, but whew, I'm glad I didn't commit to a whole lap. I'd freeze live on camera. But yeah, my natal retrograde Jupiter opposes my Venus. So the only two benefics you get in astrology, the only two planets that work in your favor, my Venus is in detriment in Aries, opposing my retrograde Jupiter. So it's like, I get no good stuff in life. I never thought. But anyway, I was like, oh wow. Hey, so what, your Venus conjuncts your Jupiter? At least semi-loosely? That's cool. What's that like? Mine opposed, I don't know. But yeah, so the return, it's almost like I'm dropped to back where I was before I entered this whole thorny portal over the past year. But everything has changed. And then moving forward, and the stuff that's changed, now as I'm talking about it, it's making more sense because I didn't actually Like I saw the cards when they came out, but I didn't like sit down with them for them to unfold. I just like read the titles, read the poems, and like they resonated. I could tell that there was like something deeper to it. You know what I mean? Something that connects the threads, or something that these different colored threads woven together on the same piece of fabric, like they were creating a picture or a scene, a moving scene. Oh, I'm almost back to the car. Oh, my fingers. Um, so yeah, the cards that clarified were heartache, new, and what was it? Ripien was at the bottom of the deck, mature. It's definitely been a year of maturation. Excuse me. But I feel like, in general, I don't know if this is gonna like kick over. I don't know what this is gonna do to the sound, but I need some heat. So, and we're gonna turn this up. Can y'all still hear me? Oh my gosh, my fingers are frozen. I feel like they got so thick. Oh, thank you, Ariel. You have natal Venus, Jupiter, and Mercury in Aries, plus your moon and oh yeah. I knew you had like a mega stellium in Aries, and you're a Taurus sun. I knew that. It's intensely all about the I am within all these planets, but you have a huge prideful ego, so it's very challenging. I think mine, like, they didn't give me any napkins. My nose is starting to drip. If y'all see some snot sickles, either overlook it or click off. Don't watch the rest. Because I'm trying not to like dab it, but if it gets really bad, see. What was I saying? Oh yeah, like I love being in a first house, Taurus, moon, and rising. Aries is your fifth house. Not a bazillion babies. Woo. Hello, Capulus Moon. Hello, Janelle. How are y'all doing today? Taurus Moon, So, what was it? Well, give me 1 second. I'm gonna look at the picture real quick, and then I'll be right back. I wish I could like. Oh wait, can I do this? Oh, it's not gonna let me do it. 1 second. Okay, now I remember why I didn't remember. So it was heartache, new bud, witchcraft, which is elder, witchcraft, sorcery. And I feel like that kind of sort of goes along with, it was 222. It's 222 and it's 28 degrees. I'm born on the 28th of February. And it's a lot of twos. So, I feel like I matured a lot in like that heartache. And because I matured in heartache, if witchcraft is more so about the way that we interact with subtleties that affect our daily lives. And subtleties could be like the words that we speak and the thoughts that we think, because the words that we speak and the thoughts that we think have an effect on our lives and our reality, but it isn't necessarily like, it's not necessarily always super physically or tangibly. The connection isn't always like super there, you know what I mean? And like, just like you say something to somebody that upsets them and then they punch you, then, or if you say something to someone and it really moves them and then they have a beautiful cry, like those are times where we're like, we see it sort of affecting, but it does in a lot of ways. Especially like attitudes and mentalities that we carry that affect the choices and decisions that we make, the opportunities that we go for, the opportunities that we don't take, blah, 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 whatever. So I had matured in a lot of ways in that heartache, in the fear, in the trauma, and it affected me in a lot of ways that made me incompatible with the future that I desired, with the life that I wanted to live, the people that I wanted to attract in my life. And another thing that I noticed, especially last weekend when I got to see a few of my friends, it's like as I've grown and healed, and even before that, as I've grown and healed and changed and matured and evolved, so have the people that I'm connected to. Like there are people from my high school, people I went to like middle school with, friends I met in college, who are all also on their own journeys. And we don't really talk, we haven't kept up, but in my social media, I see it popping up. Like, was it a year and a half ago? Somebody posted on her Facebook, like, has anyone gone through shadow work? Like, are there any like resources that you can recommend? And of course, I see stuff about like the law of attraction and manifestation and stuff like that. Your battery's at 28%, 1022. Hey. Yeah. And so like I guess I just say that to say that like people that were in my experience before, some of them of course have like we've drifted apart or whatever. Some of them have also changed and matured, and it really sort of like hit me last week because I was talking about where I am now and how I used to think, and how what I used to think and the things that I used to do, the choices and decisions that I would not make because of the fear. I'm in a position now where it's like I'm being granted opportunities. I'm wanting to make choices and decisions that the old me would have never done. And I'm telling my friends, and like they're hitting me with wisdom. I'm like, what? Like I was talking to one of my friends. First of all, like for the from 20, I met her in 2011. We got close 2012. We were like, so there was a year in between us like meeting and us becoming friends. But once we had like a class together, like we were pretty quick friends. But we were aware of each other for a whole year. So, but from like what 2011 to 2018, we were in school together. And in all that time, like she never wanted to be married. She didn't believe in marriage. Now, not only is she happily married, but she's also wanting like children. And that's something that she most definitely did not want. But I was talking to her and she was like, some of that stuff is like, it's personal. Like those are personal problems, personal issues. So that's just stuff that you got to work on within yourself. And then like, you can start then like life will change basically. And I'm like, wow. And then like I don't know, it's just like, because my other friend used to be so pessimistic, and his self-esteem was pretty low, and his outlook on life and his worth and like what opportunities would be granted to him wasn't very high because of how he viewed himself, but because of life. And it's not the Chiron. It's more Chironic than Cheroklo in Russell's Alchemy of Astrology. I think it's more Chiron than Cheroklo because it's like something happens that's very not great that basically forces you to make a change. But he was already sort of changing before that. And I don't know, it was interesting to see it. So basically a lot of the ways, like a lot of the heartache was able to be resolved within the past year. And it's not necessarily because of things that I wanted to do, but it is because of things that I chose to do. One of your best friends from the 20s reached out to you. She's suddenly in a full awakening process. Because every time, and I've talked about it as it's happened on this channel, every time I've been hit with one of those, like, I thought I was out of it. I'm triggered. Like, I haven't been triggered since before I started my journey. Like, I really thought about just like quitting and like whatever. But after a few days, I was like the one thing that I learned that I feel like really initiated me into the giant thorny portal was that like I'll at least try. So I'm not gonna give up before I even try. I'm not gonna allow fear to be so dominant that I don't even try anymore. I'd rather like try and fail and then be like, oh, okay, yeah, no, this isn't this isn't working. Um all right, I was checking my battery. I'm at 66% battery. It's 3036. And so because of that, there were a lot of things that I got the opportunity to overcome. Again, some of it I was kind of sort of forced to, but I could have quit at any time. So that's why it's like it's things that I chose to do, but they weren't things that I wanted to do. And if you know me or knew me, you know that quitting is not something that I have a problem doing. Quitting was like, I don't know if it's the Taurus in me. I don't know if it's my Venus in Aries. I don't know if it's my Saturn in Aquarius, my Neptune in Capricorn. I don't know if it's my 10-degree Pisces sun in my 10th house, 11th house. I'm just throwing like astrology. I'm like, you know what? I don't got to deal with this. I quit. Y'all can figure this out. This ain't my problem. I'm not about to stress myself out. I'm done. But I was like, no, because I felt like they were opportunities. And I didn't want for fear to continue to make my choices and decisions. Because that's what the first 24, 25, 26 years of my 20, almost 30-year life was. It was not making choices and decisions because I was afraid of this or that, or making other choices and decisions because I was afraid of that or this. And I was like, I don't want to live like that anymore. That was literally the whole point in me starting my journey, was so that I wouldn't do that anymore. I was like 2 months out from graduation and fear came in and threw it, got me to like throw it all away. I was in London instead of like finishing classes and graduating. I'm in London. My group was like, hey, Patrick, like, where are you? Are you coming to help us? I'm like, I'm in London. And they're like, oh, so you're not going to do this? And I'm like, no. Also, that group wasn't very great. First of all, they procrastinated. We said we had all this extra time. When I was invested in it, they weren't. And then they weren't nice. They weren't whatever. I'm like, you know what? Y'all can drown. And I was also like, if you tell the professor that I'm not doing my part, you'll get some leniency, you'll get some grace, you'll get to do whatever. But no, like, no, I'm not about to all of a sudden, because now y'all want to get serious and y'all ain't, no. And again, that was me stuff. Like, I'm thinking about, like, because I've had gorgeous friendships. I've had like really, really, really beautiful connections that have been in my life literally since like they came into my life. And like I said, like I just didn't have patience for a lot of stuff. And so with the things and people I didn't have patience with, it was like, no, you're not about to get something out of me that you're not willing to give to me, that you haven't invested in me, or you ain't poured into me. No, you can figure it out. So anyway, that one semester ended up pushing me back like a full year. But again, like that was because fear had set in and got me to self-sabotage hardcore. I did, but that was also at the same time when I started like meditating heavy. So like it was a week and a half, 2 weeks before I went to London. I had my darkest night. And I was like, if I come back to this place, I'm not going to survive. So everything that I've been procrastinating, everything that I've been too afraid to face, I have to do it now, or I'm not gonna be here for much longer. And so that's why, like, after that, I was like, okay. But then last November, and it's funny, I don't know what it is about, and I feel like it's not every November, it's like every other November. Well, no, because so my darkest night was the end of October 2018. That put me into like the whole meditation thing early November 2018. In November 2019, I got like super triggered, and I had to like face some things within myself. I think November 2020 is when I got serious about finishing my classes. I had two classes that I had all of 2020 to finish, and I had to finish them by December 2020. I didn't really start them until like November. I got them done and I did well. But November 2020 is when I started the classes and I finished them pretty close to like the deadline. Um, and then last year was when I was like super triggered. When I was triggered in a way that I hadn't been triggered since like October of 2018. So that was a 3-year boom. I'm like, ah. I was like, run away, run away. Everything in my head is like, Mayday, Mayday. And I was like, no, we can't do that anymore. That was literally the entire point of the last 3 years of my life, was so that I don't make this choice. And so I struggled through it until I could like wade through it, until I could walk through it. And now I'm trying to like fly through it. It's definitely not as bad as it used to be. And then this November, end of October, beginning of November is when I sort of like really hit an oxynate. And for me, oxynate is the opposite of a dark night. It's the brilliant dawn, and it can be blinding because it often comes in a space where there was only a dark night. But that dawn, it's like there were some shadows, some lingering threads that it helped bring to the forefront. And I got to make the choice to face those things, work through those things, to see all of the work that I had done, to see all of the effort that I had invested into myself, and to make that choice to continue along the path to graduate. I made the choice to graduate instead of being triggered and self-sabotaging so hardcore that it takes me twice as long, if not longer, to reach that same phase. And so now I'm in the in-between, but it's gorgeous. So yeah, I was like, oh, okay. Again, like now that I talk about it, when I think on the runes, I'm like, yeah, it makes total sense. But it is wild that today I was just like, I feel like I'm exactly where I started before this, like before I entered this portal, this gateway, before I accepted the job. And again, but it's like from the outside. And it's only like if you would have looked at me in my room, it's like if you would have looked at me sitting on my bed watching anime, it's like, oh, like he's doing this again. But like even if you would have zoomed out a little bit, it's like everything is different. The circumstances have changed. So now I get to mature in new ways. I get to mature in ways outside of fear. I get to mature in ways where all of the passion and desire that I had as a child, like the zest for life that I possessed, that I lost by the time I left elementary school. Now it's like all of those things get to mature. Now I get to do all of that, and I get to not hold back, which will be nice, because I took the other path, and not for me. Maybe for somebody, no judgment, not for me. It's not what I want. So yeah, that's basically everything. I was gonna bring a tiny deck. I'm glad I didn't bring a tiny deck, because it would have been like, once my hand would have went in my pocket to pull a card, it would have not wanted to come out, because that's how cold it was today. I guess that's where I am. 77 degrees inside, 28 degrees outside. What time is it? 2:38. I literally just said, Kirsty, hello. Hey Kirsty, how you doing today? And yeah, it's kind of wild. And as I sit in this place of life, there are things that have transpired within the past few months that, because I have an expanded capacity, because there are parts of my life where like fear has receded, so now they can bloom. Um, there are some things that I see differently. And it's thanks to amazing friends, of course, too, that like high key, low key, mid key. We'll say mid key, low key, high key, mid key, very mid key. Like Reem and my journey buddy, and like Eve. Like I've reached out to you a few times. Like I feel like the things that they said, it's like it confirmed what I was feeling, but it confirms things that I knew when things got more challenging. But it's like I knew it, but it was harder to believe, because that was like a new belief. Oh, the ash. It's fine. It was the new belief directly confronting or combating an old belief. And that old, again, the old belief was rooted in fear. The new belief was rooted, not only was it rooted in like a sort of truth, I mean, not a sort of truth, not only is the new belief rooted in truth, it's also the thing that I was afraid of. So, whew. And now I'm here. And don't get me wrong, like I said, I'm still not um it's an intermediate. It's an in between, it's a lull, it's a time to rest. and to really rest. But also in this time of rest, it's a time to establish the things that I, not only like the things that I know I'm gonna need, but the things that I want. Like I want to clean up my diet. I want to get into the habit of cooking more. I want to get a membership at a gym so I can be more active, because for the things that are coming down the pipeline, I'm going to need to be able to like move. You know what I mean? I'm going to need to be able to do 10 laps in the freezing cold, rather than like half of a lap that almost turned into like a lap and a half because I got turned around. And again, it's like not only do I need it, but I want it. And my body has been like, I've been making all these deals. I'm like, okay, body, like, just get me through to like the end of this month or the end of this week or tomorrow. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to eat better. I'm going to get groceries this weekend so I can cook for next week. And not only have I run out of excuses, again, like I had the time. And it seems like it's just the perfect time to implement those newer, healthier patterns and behaviors. So yeah, it's a rescue mission. I love that. I saw something on, I guess Instagram has notes now. I don't know how you do it, but I saw someone's Instagram note that was like, rest and rejuvenation are not the same. So I'm trying not only to rest, but also to rejuvenate, but also to rest. And I guess I can't necessarily rest if I'm up until 5 o'clock playing games, watching anime, and then I'm still waking up at like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, like that. You know what I mean? Like I have all day to do those things now, so I don't need to torture myself. Your kid has lost so much over these years. I'm so sorry to hear that, Janelle. And I hope that, I think sometimes, I know that sometimes just like having somebody there helps. Like I talked about, the only time I've had an interaction with marijuana, I was in California 2018, I think. Um, and I'm like, oh, it's legal. I had this edible. Everybody was like, your first experience should not be an edible. You should smoke it before you like eat it. I didn't know that. I'm having like I couldn't even move my body. I felt like I'm already barely anchored into the physical plane as it is. It just completely severed my tie. I couldn't feel my body. I'm having all these like whatever. But I remember towards the end because that was in a it was a fairly difficult point in my life, but it wasn't the most challenging point in my life, but it was very like heavy. Um and then in that time, like when I was having that whatever, I was shown so many parts of my life where my mom was there. Um and it was like, all of those times that I felt alone or all of those times where I was like I was literally at my breaking point, she was always there for me. And of course, that hit me with some heavy emotions, and I'm just like lying on the futon crying because I can't do anything else. The tears worked, my tear ducts worked, but that was it. And I was like, wow, like she's really been there for me. So I think, and that's another thing too. Um, yeah, it was very intense, Kirsty. I didn't know that it could do things. Like I didn't know you could like have what like vision quests or hallucinate or whatever on marijuana. Like I had no idea. I never heard of it. People were just like, oh, like you get super chill, you get very mellow, and then you get hungry, and you might have like a crazy idea or something. But I think, when we're in times of difficulty, I guess when we come out of times of difficulty, we can really see the like almost like the lifelines that we had while we were in those times. And when we're in those times, we do feel that support and we feel the love and we feel those connections. Um, it's just that everything else can be amplified even more to the point where it's like it's maybe it feels like it's not even there. Maybe sometimes it's not, but I hope that I'm sure that that you're there and it's you like it's the former rather than the latter. So yeah. All right, well, I am gonna go home. I still need to go to the store. I gotta I guess like I'm gonna let you in on where I sit at life right now. So that's been like the past year to this moment, right? So as I look at the myriad of paths in my future, as I look at the myriad of paths that I can see and perceive in my future, when I look at the choices and decisions before me that are mine to make in terms of where my life goes next, there are definitely some paths where I'm like, I can tell, like, there's a lot of momentum behind this energy in some paths, but it's not what I want. And it's not what, um, oh no. It is crocheted. I made it. See, this is the loose end that I left. And then, oops, let's see. These are the loops. I left that too. I didn't cut it yet. These are the loops that I left up here. So I can like feed the loose end through these loops and close it up if I want it to be like an infinity. And when I don't want it to be, I can just pull them out. But I hope the band went down to 3 people. I don't know. It feels like there's a thread in there. I don't know what it is, but it feels like a heavy energy of a possibility or an option or something opening up in that. I mean, it doesn't take away from the experience of like I can't even imagine sort of that because it wasn't my experience having everything sort of like nice and set up for external circumstances to come in and take away everything, especially at that age too. Especially when you're in a at a time where like your position to set out in life and to have a goal or a direction or to have something that you were going to step out on almost to like make that step and then find the rug pulled beneath your feet. I hope it all works out for her. Um, but yeah, so there's a path that makes a lot of sense, and then there's a path that I'm really passionate about. The path that I'm really passionate about, it's interestingly enough, so at the top of February, I was at my job for literally a handful of months. I had a not great boss that also probably helped, but I could just tell I'm like there's no real like so I was a quality control microbiologist, right? And it's like, we do the tests, we troubleshoot, we try to isolate whatever if there's an issue. But like that's it. It doesn't or didn't feel like there was a real evolution or there it didn't feel like there were like possibilities to expand. It's like you do the test method, you see if anything grows. And I was like, okay, yeah, I don't want to do this. And I was like, oh, but computers are something that I love. Like I loved coding. I want to work with computers, but like I don't want to leave everybody here in a bind because we were short staffed at the point. And then literally what 2 weeks later of me feeling conflicted between like doing the thing that I want and not wanting to like inconvenience people. We got the announcement, oh, by the end of the year, the plant's not going to be here. I was like, oh, great. So now I can leave and I don't have to feel bad for leaving because we're all leaving. And so now I'm like, I want to do that computer thing. And I saw like the perfect opportunity and it made me so excited. But this opportunity, the company that this opportunity is through was recommended to me by somebody that I did not like, who was in a position to help me, but she wasn't helpful. Not only was she not helpful, but her attitude when I was in places of obvious vulnerability was not great. It's like I'm coming to you, you're supposed like your job is literally to help me. I'm telling you that I'm in a vulnerable position. You can tell I'm in a vulnerable position, and your response is to try to beat me up, berate me, and make me feel even worse about myself. I was like, okay, yeah. So I just like tuned everything out. It was like I would literally just sit there and stare at her, and then when like the conversation got semi-productive, I was like, okay, now I can engage. Just like I'm not coming to you so you can do whatever for 20 minutes of this 25-minute meeting. And then in the last 5 minutes, oh, do this, do that, and blah, 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 boom. Like just say that. So because my taste for her was so sour, I was like, oh, I don't want to work at that company. I didn't even look. I mean, I did look, but I was like, oh yeah, no. The job that I really, really want to like really would like to have was at that company. And I was like, I was conflicted again because it was like this is something that I want. Not only is it something that I want, it's like something that I very much so want. Um Holly bought her music to cars to where she sees a picture of a car. Oh, snap, what? So she's already like, love that, love that, love that for her, love her for that. Um, but yeah, and so there was that conflict between like, am I gonna let this other lady that I didn't care for sour this opportunity for me? Technically, the answer was it wasn't yes and it wasn't no. The reason why I didn't apply for the position is because I wanted to see this one through to the end. And I feel like it's the kind of position that they couldn't necessarily wait to fill. Like I knew a few other people who had jobs and they didn't want to wait until their termination date. And so they left. And I really wanted to see it through to the end. So I saw it one day. I get back on there not too long later and the position is taken down. So I'm like, it was like a controls engineer. Um, I have an engineering degree. I would love to do engineering. I pretty much had an idea. I didn't want to be at first I thought I wanted to be a scientist until I got into engineering. I was like, yeah, I want to do engineering. And then I was a scientist and I feel like there were some frustrations that I had as a scientist that like my not only did my education prepare me for, but just like the problem solving approach and that's involved with engineering. Like it was like I want to do this and I want to do that. Like there's more that I can do to try to like isolate causes or to remedy the situation. But like in my position, I can't do those things. It was kind of frustrating. Also, at the same time, I didn't have the time to do it because it wasn't my job. So I was like, I want that to be my job. Never ever thought I would have actually wanted to do engineering, but now I do. And it's funny because like even the stuff about like when we would look at tech spec sheets for like parts like pumps and tanks and stuff like that. I was like, oh, like I don't want to do this. But one of my coworkers was like, I need like we're going to order this new piece of equipment and I need a pump, but I don't know how much like power this needs or whatever. I'm like, oh, it's in the spec sheets. And he was like, wait. I'm like, they show you hysteresis and everything, girl. It's like it's all there. I was like, again, like I didn't think that those would be things that I wanted to do until this year. And so that would have been perfect. Coding was my favorite thing. I took controls classes. Like we had to program this robotic arm to like pick up a piece of toast and toast it and then pull it out of the toaster and set it on a plate. And like stuff like that I enjoyed and the opportunity came up and I'm like, oh my gosh. So there's the one path that is like super like that's what I want. But then there's this other path that's a lot more practical. It's a lot more of like a step into a step rather than like a leap into the thing that I'm like really excited about. But the thing that I'm really excited about is like the type of work I would be doing. While the other path is less like I'm less like obviously less excited about it, the environment and the duties and responsibilities, not the duties and responsibilities, it's the environment of that position is one that I would very much so enjoy. The work, not so much. On the other side, the work I would really enjoy, the environment, probably not as much. Um, and then, of course, there's always the opportunity for both. But that's kind of sort of where I am right now. Also, life is like the universe is very much so a thing, and there are choices and decisions that I have made because they feel like the right choice and decision to make. Um, and so that creates limitation in one way, but in that limitation, it helps me filter through possibilities, right? So I decided that I'm going to stay here in town for probably at least another 2 years before I move out. I also realized in my year of working, my saving was not great. I'm like, it wasn't until like the end, I'm like, wait, like that amazing budget that I got a year ago, never used it. The save like my savings is decent. My savings is the best that it's ever been in my life, but it could have been a lot better. And I literally like ate that food away. Like fast food way too many times in the day, way too many days in the week. And, it adds up quick. Um, and, I can't go back in the past and change it. I was like, oh, wow, I was supposed to be like saving. So, anyway, the severance is going to cover a lot of the things that I wanted to do. So, it still ends up working out. And then I can put the rest in saving to pad it to where like I would have liked it. So, like I said, it's still gonna work out. It's just like when as I move forward, it'll be nice to be mindful of this so that, blah blah blah, whatever. I forget what I was talking about now. I feel like I'm sort of rambling at this point. But oh yeah, yeah. I decided that I'm gonna stay home and there's only like certain opportunities that pop up. So I saw one for the environment that I'm excited about, but the work that I'm not necessarily as excited about. And I applied for that. It's actually at a company that I was like, oh, like there's this company. It's a company in like pepper and mushroom paninis. It's funny that you say pepper because we had like at our holiday party, the Grinch made an appearance and she was handing out presents like tissue, like not like used tissues, but like tissues that were like pulled out of the box, like Ziploc baggies that had been like used, like cardboard paper. And I was like, so she came to me, everyone's getting all this garbage. I'm like, oh, she's gonna give me something I can actually use. I feel it. The Grinch is gonna give me something I can actually use. And she's like getting in the bag. I was like, oh, it's heavy. It's a big one. Oh, and it's also super interesting that I'm here. Um, she gave me seeds for like Chinese giant sweet peppers. And I was like, oh, snap, it is something that I can use. And that was also interesting because that goes back to my freshman year, question mark. My freshman year of school, there was an event on my floor where we like got seeds to pot plants and I got a pepper plant and it was doing so well. I love the cold, but the pepper plant didn't like the cold. So I turned up the heat and everything. I suffered so that that plant could thrive and it thrived until it came home and my mom killed it. But she was like, it might die while it's here because she took it home like a week before I went home. It was before finals. And by the time I made it home, it was dead. But now I got seeds, I can do it again. And I say it's interesting that it's here because here is where the acorns were on the ground. And it was the seeds. And I was stepping on the acorns to try to crack them open for the squirrels. But with my shoes, they just wouldn't crack open. Wait, can't make what? A Christmas dinner for the old folks tomorrow? Well, that sounds fun. Oh, so you can't make the homemade pepper and mushroom panini? Oh, you can't make the things at mine. Okay, yeah. I just read pepper and I went on a whole tangent. Okay. I don't know about that necessarily, Holly. But it's funny that you mentioned the peppers. Yeah, yeah. I reread it and I was like, oh, okay. So it sounds like Kirsty is doing the dinner tomorrow. So we just got to meet up with her. And I was wanting to go back to the UK, so it's perfect. Um, but yeah, I got the seeds and I was like, oh my gosh. I can like not only can I actually use these, it was just a lot of things coming back together brilliantly. Um, so yeah, so it's in food. My degree is in pharmaceutical process engineering, if you're curious. It's in biological engineering. My concentration is pharmaceutical process engineering. There's a food plant here. And I was like, oh, food and pharmaceuticals, they're not exactly the same, but it's relevant. And I was like, oh, I could work at this food plant. I didn't get the job at a food plant. I got a job at a plant that makes like personal care products and stuff like that. A lot of them you probably know. Some of them you might even use. I was over in the UK and I saw some stuff that we make and I looked at the code to see if it had like our plant code on it. It didn't, but I also didn't look at everything. It was like one thing that I picked up. Um, and I know some of it goes to like Canada. And I was like, oh, I could like put a little heart at the bottom of one of these and maybe Reem will pick it up in the store. Anyway, so the job is at the place that I originally wanted to go to because it was more adjacent to the actual industry that I wanted to go in. And that's like, again, that's the environment that I would love, the work that I wouldn't like as much. Um, and so if that's the one that ends up going through, then the universe made that choice for me. Now, if someone also posts, because I'm going to be looking, if someone also posts the job that I would love to do with the environment that I wouldn't like as much, then your son got married last week. Hey, congratulations. Um, then I'll have a choice to make. If I get both of them and they're like, yeah, which one do you want? Then I'll have to make the choice. But besides that, I'm gonna flow with life. And yeah, so that's the professional side of things. That in itself was a trigger for me. Because I was laying in bed at night and I was already looking at positions for the other place. And something was just like, get online, look at jobs. So I did, and I didn't see anything at one. I didn't see anything at the other, but then I saw the one, like the job I ended up applying for. And I was like, oh, but it was so late. I was like, I need to redo my resume. And it's interesting because a lot of the things that I took off of my resume for this job, I had to put back on my resume. Or the things I put on my resume for my last job, I had to put back on my resume for the new one. And it was time to like actually apply. I was like, I had to work. I'm like, oh, I'm tired and blah, blah, blah. I was like, don't procrastinate, get up and do this. And so I got up and I fixed up my resume. It took me longer than I thought it would. And it came time to click apply, and not as strongly, but a lot of those, like, can I actually do this? Like, am I actually like good enough? And blah, 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 came to my mind. And I was like, I'm not going to let it stop me from applying. And then after, like when I was doing that was before I started my resume. Because when I was actually doing my resume and I was updating stuff, I was like, yeah, like, of course I can do this. What are you talking about? But in the past, like those thoughts alone would have been enough to keep me from applying to that job. Like I wouldn't have even got to the point of redoing my resume, um, or updating my resume. I would have just, fear would have been like, oh yeah, no. Negative self-talk would have been like, oh yeah, no. But I did it and I was like, wow. And I did it the next day. My mom was like, wow, you didn't even procrastinate. I was like, I know, right? So yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Anyway, I think I'm going to go now. I just rambled your ears off for like an hour, but it's fine. That's where I am at in life. I am definitely going to enjoy at least a week. I got my severance. I got operational bonuses. I'll be able to rest. But I don't want to not do the things that I know I'm like, not only the things that I know I'm meant to be doing right now, but the things that I want to do. And then in some other areas and aspects of my life that I would say they carried more fear or like negative self-talk or whatever. And that's the stuff that like Eve and Reem and my journey buddy and the friends that I saw last week, that's what they were like helping me with. And again, there were some things that I like when I made my list of demands to the universe, when I was like, God, spirit, universe, ancestors, guides, whoever's here helping me, working with me, creating this, like that I'm forging this path of life through. These are the things that I want because I'm tired of all of the other stuff. And there are ways that I don't want to have to be anymore. And then I would get an opportunity and he'd be like, oop. It's like, oh, so you said you wanted this, right? And I'm like, ooh, I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot. Like, but you said you wanted it, right? I guess I'm realizing in some ways, I don't know, not that it's like, I mean, I guess it's kind of more than, in some ways, it's almost like more than I asked for, but exactly what I want. In other ways, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. It's required a lot of bravery in a lot of areas of my life that pre-Thorny Portal Patrick would have struggled with. I'm not gonna say pre-Thorn Patrick. I'll just say Thorn Patrick. Pre-Thorn Patrick, like he would have at the very least struggled heavily. Because post Thorn Patrick isn't necessarily struggling at this point. But Patrick a few weeks ago was. And like pre-Dark Knight Patrick, pre-Darkest Night Patrick, no, would not have been able. Pre-Darkest Night Patrick would have been too triggered to even think about it. Um, but yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I had to turn my lab coats in. I mean, I didn't have to turn them in, but they would have charged me for them if I didn't. So, and they collected them. So, Taco Bell. I love Taco Bell. I mean, I feel like Taco Bell could give you a lot of like customer service it'll probably, I feel like it's more applicable than some people might think it is. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, people want to work with people that know how to work with people. You know what I mean? And customer service will definitely put you in a position where you have to work with people, even if people aren't working with you. So, all right, it was 1:11:11 on the time just now. Yeah, it was so exciting. It was so sweet. And then my boss turned into a monster, and I was like, oh my gosh, I hate it here. And then I had to do work that wasn't my job, and then I was the only person. But I made it. I made it to the end. I have fulfilled my contract. The papers are signed. Whoop whoop. I'm excited, and I feel like this is one of the first things in my life that like I didn't procrastinate, that like I went for. I applied myself, I was challenged, and I challenged myself, and it's like I get to graduate in one go rather than like passing some classes, failing some classes, retaking those classes, passing, failing, passing, retaking, just quitting, and then eventually getting there. So yeah, it's I wish I had more dragon's milk. Maybe I'll get more dragon's milk. I do have to go to the store, so woo! So yes, thank you all for being here. I hope you have an amazing whenever you see this. I hope that whatever you need along your path journey and what you find, again, like my hands are literally freezing, but it feels like springtime. I don't know. It feels like spring. It's been feeling like spring for a hot minute though. Like for some reason, winter is feeling like spring. Well, it's fine. All right, I'll catch y'all later. Bye.